A lot of good news pouring in for Big Ten basketball fans as the transfer portal announcements are starting to pile in. Ever since last week, we started getting information on players that intend to, enter the portal, rumors of other players that might be entering the portal. Not all the information is great for every Big Ten team. Kwame Evans Jr., he had an announcement on Monday that he is most likely going to be entering into the portal. He is already on three's website for him being somebody that's going to enter the portal. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but Big Ten teams are, going after some of these guys that are in the portal. One of them being Stefan Vaaks from Providence, a freshman this season, 6'7", 206 pounds, he is a foreign player. And right now, Indiana, Ohio State, and Wisconsin all seem to have their eyes locked in on Vox here, somebody that they really value his versatility, his shot creating ability from the wing. He has NBA type of range, ball handling. Sounds like even with the NBA potential, he is somebody that wants to come back to college for another year or two, and Indiana really likes that about him. Indiana is really going after players this transfer portal cycle that they feel like they can bring in and not just be a year rental, but Darren DeVries really wants to try and establish a culture at Indiana that he can continue to build off of. They have a few players that can come back this season, like 6 or 7, Josiah Miles, some guys like that, that can possibly come back this season. But right now, you just don't know what that's going to look like for this Indiana team and some of these players that could possibly come back. So you want to try to bring in guys that you can lock up for multiple years. As we know, the Big Ten does a phenomenal job with their contracts to be able to lock guys down. It's definitely something Indiana is very interested in here. Wisconsin sounds like there's a whole lot of real interest with them. There's some reporting going on over at On3 and 24/7 that Vox is somebody that is a very real target. There is mutual interest between him and Wisconsin, him and Indiana. Sounds like Ohio State is trying to get in the mix here as well. I would not be surprised at all if he visits one or two of these schools at some point once the transfer portal does open. As we know, there is, always there are always talks and things like that going on behind the scenes. This is not new knowledge. Everybody knows this type of stuff goes on. As we've said here before multiple times, if you're not tampering, somebody else is at this point, and you have to go for it. And it shouldn't even be tampering at this point when they've already basically said, I'm going to enter into the transfer portal. So who knows? The NCAA will have to try and figure all that stuff out. But the point is that with 15.8 points per game, over 3 assists per game, shooting 40% from the field, 35% on over 8 3-point attempts per game. He had 91 made 3-pointers last year for Providence. That's 4th in a season in Providence history. He was all Big East freshman team, all Big East tournament record with 8 threes in one game. He had 28 points against Butler. He is the type of guy that is going to be able to come in and be a scorer for you right away. Indiana needs that as they're going to be losing Lamar Wilkerson, losing Nick Boyd over there at Wisconsin, who he operated that offense a whole lot for him. They're hopefully going to get John Blackwell back this season, and Nolan Winter is somebody they're going to be prioritizing to try and get back as well. But if they are not able to do that, Stefan Vox would definitely be somebody that would come in and help fill that role. And even if they do that, Stefan Vox would definitely be somebody who would be able to come in and shoot at that high 3-point clip that Wisconsin kind of wants to venture at there. So very interesting situation here. Those are just a few of the teams that Big Ten teams seem to be going after Vox here early, but I would not be surprised at all as he is the number 1 player in the transfer portal on3's transfer portal rankings. Jake Fiegen of Cornell, a 6'4" guard, senior, like I said, out of Cornell. He is also somebody that's gaining some interest from some Big Ten teams as well. Joe Tipton wrote an article about some teams that might be going after him. Indiana and Ohio State were also mentioned here as well. Indiana looks to be getting busy very early, not necessarily going after guys a whole bunch, but definitely getting guys on their radar, getting guys to say, okay, do we want to go after this guy? Is this guy somebody that we want to pursue more heavily? Jake Fiegen fit there from Cornell. He is efficient. He is an inside-out scorer, good rebounder for a guard. He's a strong finisher at the rim. He's a reliable 3-point shooter, shooting over 40% from three, and all around good Ivy League performer this year for Cornell. I don't think that he's going to come in and be necessarily a star player for any of these teams, but definitely could be somebody who comes in as a contributor, as a playmaker at times for them. Looks like Wisconsin might be interested here a little bit as well. And Joe Tipton mentioned Northwestern as a team as well, as Fegan is from Illinois, and so maybe there's a possibility there. I don't think this is a guy that Illinois is going to go after. He is 6'4", but he just kind of lacks some of the length and the athleticism that Illinois tries to go after a little bit more with some of their guards. Maybe they do. We'll see what happens, but I would think that this would probably be more of a Northwestern situation rather than an Illinois situation for somebody from the state of Illinois looking at a school there. So interesting stuff there. First team all Ivy League tournament team as well. Somebody that is going to make a Big Ten fan base happy if he does decide to go to them. All right, another one, and this is been more of a rumor to be kind of coming out here a little bit, less than somebody that said they're going to enter the portal, because we just don't know what's going to happen. But Ohio State fans are very interested to see if Ohio State is going to be able to hold on to Amari Bynum. Now, if you played Ohio State at the end of the season, you most likely saw a really good play from Amari Bynum, whether it was switching the hand on the layup that he had in the Big Ten tournament, whether it was a dunk he had on somebody at the end of the season, whether it was some of the plays that he made against Purdue in that game. Amari Bynum looks to be somebody that a lot of schools are going to be trying to go after and possibly tamper with. Now, Ohio State is a team that they put a lot of money into their football budget, but it looks like Ohio State's not even going to be the team that is spending the most money in the state of Ohio on basketball next season. There were reports out there that Cincinnati is going to be contributing more than $10 million to their basketball roster next season. And there are some Ohio State reporters out there that are saying Ohio State didn't even spend $10 million on their roster this season. Now, does that mean they couldn't spend $10 million? No, they went after some really high-profile players, but they swung and they missed. So maybe they did have more money to be able to go after some of those guys, but they did not spend as much as some people thought they were going to, or some people thought they did, especially with not being able to get some of the players that they wanted. The fact is, it looks like Amari Bynum and Devin Royal, Ohio State's probably going to have to make a choice between these two guys. Devin Royal, an undersized kind of, forward for this team that tried to play a little bit more out on the perimeter this season, didn't work out super well for him. I think that if Ohio State is going to make the decision here between a guy like Amari Bynum, who is a freshman this season, 6'8" forward, has some more size than a Devin Royal, and also has some more athleticism than him, I think they're going to go with the choice of Amari Bynum here, especially with them bringing in another forward in Anthony Thompson, who probably fits better next to a guy like Amari Bynum rather than a guy like Devin Royal in this situation. But we're going to have to see what happens here. Bynum really came on at the end of the season. He averaged nearly 10 points per game throughout the season. He shot 30% from three, but that three-point shot was kind of streaky a little bit. He did show an ability to hit threes in games at a consistent rate later on in the season. He did start 24 games this year. If a Big Ten team is going to go after Amari Bynum, sounds like there could be a possibility of Nebraska going after Amari Bynum. Now, there's no indication that Nebraska is like tampering with him or anything like that. I don't want to put that out there, but it does sound like with Amari Bynum being from Omaha, Nebraska, there are some Ohio State reporters that are saying, look, Amari Bynum, Ohio State really wants to keep him, but Nebraska looks really good this season. Fred Hoiberg, he's more of an established head coach than Jake Diebler is at this point. You could possibly see a situation there where there might be some stuff going on. All right, and so the last team to talk about here, two players with this team, and we'll talk about Kwame Evans Jr. first, as he was somebody we mentioned earlier from Oregon. Kwame Evans Jr., the 6'10" forward. He is going to be a senior last year in college basketball coming up. Looks like with his length, his versatility, he would be somebody going back home to the East Coast that Maryland would be very interested in. Sounds like Maryland wants to try and get him on campus and visit once the transfer portal opens on April 7th. But looks like there's not a whole lot of mutual interest here, as Evans Jr. does want to try and go to a team that has more contention ready. And that's what sounds like that's one of the reasons why he wanted to leave Oregon, is because he wants to compete for a national title, for a deep run in the tournament in his final year of eligibility. And it just doesn't look like Oregon is going to be that team next year. Does that mean they're going to be bad? No, not necessarily, but they're probably not going to be a top 5 team, a top 3 team in the conference or anything like that. They're most likely going to be going through a little bit of a rebuild next year. So we'll see how that works out for them. Maryland probably going to be going over some similar stuff. And so the thought process, and things change. We'll see if things change. But the thought process here is it looks like Kwame Evans Jr. is most likely going to be more of a Tennessee lean at this point, but is still very early on with the transfer portal chatter. So we'll see what happens. The final player here, our 5th player to mention, is one Rodney Rice out of UCLA. He has been all over the map. He's been Virginia Tech, Maryland, USC, or UCLA, USC. I apologize. I said UCLA. USC in this situation. Looks like Rodney Rice, after going through the injury this season, he only played 6 games overall. Looks like Maryland might be going after him as well. And there were actually rumors that he was back on campus. Now, Rodney Rice has not, he has not said he's going into the portal or anything like that. Similar to the Amari Bynum situation, sounds like there's just kind of some rumors that some teams might be going out there and trying to tamper a little bit, or they just have their eyes on him and say, hey, if he does enter into the portal, this is somebody that we are going to try and go after. The rumor was that he was actually in Maryland, on Maryland's campus this past weekend. And so there was some thought there, oh, what was he maybe taking a little bit of an unofficial visit or something like that? But reporting out of 24/7 said that the Inside Maryland Sports said that he was just visiting friends. So, sounds like it wasn't exactly a situation that Maryland might be able to get in here with Rodney Rice, but you never know. Helps that he maybe has friends there at Maryland still, maybe a group of people that does he just want to go end his college career out there possibly and do something like that. We'll see what happens. I think he still has eligibility after this season. He was a junior last year, but he might be able to gain a waiver or something like that. After only playing 8 games his freshman year at Virginia Tech, 6 games at USC. We'll see how that works out for him, but definitely some interesting stuff here. And Rodney Rice could always come back to USC as well. Nobody's saying that he's for sure gone or anything, but he is somebody that there are just some rumors going around with him right now that he could possibly be moving on. And another team that I know would most likely be interested in him if he did decide to move on would be a team like Illinois, who they would kind of value some of his length. Now, he doesn't have the traditional length that maybe Illinois always loves. He's only 6'5", 199. So he doesn't have all of that length that maybe they always love. You have a guy like Keaton Wagler who's running point for you right now at 6'7", but still a guy with good length who can play guard for you and work out well in that situation. So that is what I got for the transfer portal buzz, kind of chatter going on with some Big Ten teams, Ohio State, Indiana, and Wisconsin out here moving early. Maryland trying to take some big swings. And then you do have some different players that have some rumored possibilities of going into the portal, and Amari Bynum and Rodney Rice going into that situation. If it did turn out where Amari Bynum stays and he's retained at Ohio State, which could definitely happen as well. I'm not trying to say that Amari Bynum's gone in Ohio State or anything like that by any means. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Then I think you're most likely going to see Devin Royal move on. And I think Michigan State would actually be a team that might have a strong possibility of bringing him in, as he did have a really good relationship with Tom Izzo in the recruiting process there as well.